Hello, Clutter Warrior. Today, let's talk about the difference between urgent and important, where they come together and where they are competing for your attention. So often, when it comes to getting and staying organized and your productivity and managing your time, if you don't know what is important to you, if you have a vague sense of what's important to you, but you're not crystal clear on what's important to you, it will be very easy to be tripped up by urgent. And if there is any part of you that is a people pleaser, if you are prone to putting other people's needs first, I don't want to take away from a possibly delightful characteristic of yours that you are generous and open-hearted and engaged in your community and your family. So we don't want to quell the impulse in you, but we do want to make sure that it is being funneled in a way that both serves you and serves the people you're in relationship with. So we don't want you just being a overly enthusiastic volunteer who's indulging your people-pleasing tendencies, if that is a characteristic of yours. So back to this idea of urgent and important. When the house is literally on fire, urgent and important are completely in sync. There's no distinguishing from it is urgent to get out of the house, it is important to get out of the house because the house is on fire. If the house is not literally on fire, urgent will often, if not always, steal your focus, right? Urgent is loud, it's busy, it's shiny, it's flashy, it's going to draw your attention, and important is just quiet and steady. What is important to us, when we know it and we are clear on it, it just flows under our day, and it is like a river under a mill or something like that. It's steadily moving. We can tap into it and engage in it and enter the flow of it, if you will. But we have to do that with a degree of mindfulness, with a degree of clarity and focus. Otherwise, it's just steadily running below us, and we're busy up here doing whatever we're doing, and we're not really using it as a foundational tool in prioritizing and making our choices. So if you don't know what is important to you, or you have a vague sense of what's important to you, but you haven't taken the time to do a set of core value exercises, this is my invitation to you to do that. You can easily find them at my website, andrewmellen.com. Of course, Mellen is spelled M-E-L-L-E-N. So if you go to my website and you go to the footer, you'll find a tab there that is labeled for Audible listeners. Audible, like the service, the audio book service. If you click on that, you will have the opportunity to download my core value exercises, because they are available in my book, Unstuff Your Life. So if you have a copy of the book, you don't need to go download the PDF. You already have them in a book. If you don't have a copy of my book, this is a way, I mean, of course, I'd like you to buy the book, but I don't want that to stop you from doing the exercise. So you can still go get the exercises if you click on the For Audible Listeners tab. It'll ask you for your email address, because we don't want bots scraping stuff off the website, but then you can download the core value exercises and you can do them. It's so important that you know crystal clear what's important to you. I don't want it to be that vague sense. And this is how I want you to be able to distinguish what I'm asking you to do around the exercises themselves and getting clear. If you say, my family is the most important thing to me, and you've ever been late to pick up your kid or to show up on time for anything or to complete something because you were doing something else first in the moment, you were telling yourself possibly one of your 200 lies. Oh, as soon as I get this out of the way, I'm going to return to what I was doing. In those moments, no judgment, but in those moments, clearly you chose something else as more important than your family. You don't need to feel bad about it. You don't need to feel guilty about it. You do just need to acknowledge that if that has happened to you, that was the cause of it, is that in that moment, what was most important to you, i.e. your family, ceased to be most important to you, and you allowed something else, possibly urgent, to trump it and then become what was most important to you. We've all done it. So again, no need to go down the rabbit hole of shame or feeling bad about it. But once you know better, you'll do better. So I'm drawing your attention to it. Hence the invitation to do the core value exercises so you get crystal clear on them. If you live with other people, whether those are partners or roommates or children, parents, it's an awesome exercise to do with other people that you share space with. It will help you get clarity, and them as well, on why they make certain choices around where they put things, whether they put them back when they're finished with them, etc. You'll start to understand, oh, they're not doing it to piss me off. They're doing it because this is aligned with their values. This is where they think the home for the plastic spatulas are. And because you didn't discuss it, they are living their values. You have a value around where the spatulas live. They have a different value. And those were secret until you actually do the exercise. And now suddenly you're in the middle of the room having the real conversation instead of each of you operating in a little silo, wondering, why does this keep happening? Like, why can't I find anything when I go looking for it after you, whoever you might be, right? You've put it away. And it's a great way of dismantling all of that nonsense. So back to the concept for today's episode: urgent versus important, or urgent in sync with important. It's essential that you start to recognize when urgent is driving you and the desire to quell urgent, because again, it draws focus. It's loud, it's busy, it's shiny, it's flashy. And if you don't like to be overly stimulated, it's understandable that you would do whatever you needed to do instantly in the moment to quiet that down so you could get back to the slow and steady progress of your life. The problem is, what often happens is we become enrolled in constantly putting out those fires, quieting down the urgent distraction. And then we tell ourselves, another one of our 200 lies, now that it's quiet, I can refocus and do the important work. There's a great example, if you've ever seen one of these demonstrations where a guy or a person has a table and they have 3 bowls, and one bowl has rocks in it, one bowl has sand in it, and one bowl is empty. And he'll stop passersby and say, hey, can you get the rocks and the sand in this empty bowl? Everybody who puts the sand in first and then puts in the rocks doesn't succeed. There's never enough room in the bowl for both of those things. But if you put the big rocks in first and then pour the sand around it, suddenly it all fits in there. It feels counterintuitive when we are making those kinds of prioritization choices in our life. We will often think, let me just get all this little crap out of the way, and then I'm going to have this big unstructured bucket of time where I can really do my big thinking and my big planning and my big projects. The reality is, though, that those little tasks eat up all of our energy, eat up all of our attention. We're exhausted when we're done checking off all those little things off of our list. We never get to the big thing that we want to do, and we don't change our behavior. So we don't recognize that we're perpetuating the same result because we're perpetuating the same behavior. So again, it's essential that you know what's important to you so you can choose that over what's busy, loud, and flashy. And you'll start to be able to develop the skill to turn off the influence of busy, shiny, flashy over you. You'll be able to see out of the corner of your eye, metaphorically speaking, something's busy, shiny, flashy over there. I don't need to be distracted and pulled off my focus. So you also want to consider those volunteer fire department assignments that you give yourself. Are you raising your hand and volunteering to put out everybody else's fires, and then at the end of the day, sitting down exhausted thinking, oh my gosh, I did a million things today, I got nothing to show for it, right? You put out everybody else's fires. You helped everybody else resolve their issues, but you didn't move anything that matters to you forward. That's another common result of the urgent versus important schism. The last thing that I want to share with you is that if you struggle at all to recognize urgent and distinguish it from important, one of the easiest ways to think about it is urgent is typically somebody else's agenda, important is our own. No judgment there, and it doesn't make other people wrong because they are insistent or demanding. You can join them or not join them. You also have agency and free will, so you don't necessarily have to jump just because they say jump. I'm going to repeat that. Well, I'm going to repeat both parts, actually. I'm going to repeat the part that says you don't have to jump just because they say jump. And the second part, which is urgent, is typically somebody else's agenda. Important is our own. So remember that when you are being distracted by urgent. And that's what I want to share with you today. Thanks for tuning in. I look forward to being back with you again.